coffee cups with the sides that
There you go.
burn their hands on.
Call them sissy cups.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The hour is 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the City Council Budget Meeting of the City of Laconia, May 13th, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the Armand Baldick Council Chambers. Special School Board Budget Meeting. Thank you, Councilor Bogart. We are joined by Recording Secretary Katie Gargano, City Manager Kurt Beatty, and Glenn Smith was here. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Hoffman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here?
Counselor Bogart,
Here.
Counselor Felch.
And here.
Thank you. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mark Haynes. I'm the councilman from Ward 4, but I am Mayor Pro Temp, and I'm sure the mayor will be joining us very shortly. Tonight we have a presentation, and it's the school board meeting, school board budget, and I'd like to introduce our superintendent, Steve Tucker. Steve.
Hello, folks. Thank you for having us here today. Really appreciate the time for you to listen what we're doing in Laconia School District. I'm going to turn it over to our chair to open up our presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. You are so efficient. It's very impressive. It is really hard to believe that it was back in November when this budgeting process began, but then again, I'm not really sure if it ever actually ends. Our process begins by talking with staff about priorities and then bringing in the administration, the SAU, and the school board into the conversation. Thank you to each of you, our city councilors and our city manager and our mayor, for your continued efforts to support teaching and learning in Laconia. And I think it's important to say that nothing would be done as well and with such attention to detail. And that is from two incredible people, Glenn Smith, Finance Director, and our Business Administrator, Diane Cleary. So thank you to them as well. As you will hear tonight, the budget aligns with our strategic goals for the district, and we thank all of our school board committee members for their direct and indirect involvement on various platforms. Developing our strategic goals with the community has been a huge accomplishment that we are very proud of this year, and we thank our teachers and staff who continue to provide enrichment for our students. As you will also hear, retention of employees is a focus of this budget, supporting the LEA contract in its third year and our newest, very proud 3-year contract that we've just enacted with the EAL. Continuing support for resources for literacy and extended learning opportunities such as dual enrollment and exploratory programs, things like woodworking and band and music and world language. And I know many of you have had the opportunity to recently do a tour around Laconia High School and hear about all of the good things that are being done there. But please know that that extends from kindergarten right up through our graduating seniors. So again, we want to thank you for taking the time to hear us tonight, and we appreciate any questions you have throughout.
So we will present a tax cap compliant budget today. This budget will support 7 new teaching positions that were left over or carried over from the ESSER budget. Remember that we use ESSER funds to support teaching and learning by hiring new staff. We don't have all those positions coming back, but we are looking to bring back 3 elementary interventionists who work directly with children. We're looking to bring back 1 hallway monitor at Laconia High School. We're looking to bring or change over a position in an exploratory position at Laconia Middle School to a STEM position, which will allow kids some hands-on experiences in the world of manufacturing and engineering. We also want to retain 2 part-time positions that we were funding through ESSER. One is an OT, an occupational therapist, and then the other one is an ESOL teacher to help kids who are coming with us who speak different languages. So As the chair said, this is a budget that supports our district goals, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. Would you like me to advance the slides when we're ready? Is that the best way to do that? And can you see those okay, the title slide? Okay. So as the chair said, we have a process that really doesn't end, but specifically we have formal processes that allow us to eventually come to you to present the budget, which is, the last date is today. And we're really proud of our strategic goals that the chair mentioned. We have 3 goal areas, with an academic goal area being the most significant one because we are a school system. We have 1 academic goal area that focuses on literacy, which focuses on the growth and proficiency of students in reading and writing using multiple measures. We have a teaching and learning goal that focuses on research-based instructional practices, differentiating and personalizing learning for individual students, and then also assessment, which means that we're trying to align our assessment plan so that we are assessing kids in a quality and efficient way. Our second goal area deals with the wellness of staff and students, and that goal focuses on multi-tiered systems of support for kids, wellness for staff, playgrounds, which we're making great progress in, as well as health for our staff and students. Lastly, the community resources and engagement goal focuses on future learning pathways, connections to students with the community, as well as to enhance learning through the community, and then lastly, a communication plan for the district. In our next slide, we will bring up the assistant superintendent as well as the business administrator to talk about what this means at a district level.
Okay, so competitive salary and benefits obviously comes to the business administrator, who has to find all the money through you guys. So we have worked very hard to create a new contract with the Educational Assistance of Laconia, the EAL contract, which has come about, and to examine our non-union folks as well to make sure that we're being competitive in the workplace so that we can retain great staff.
As Superintendent Tucker said, literacy falls within the first goal of the strategic plan under academics. This year, the preschool through 5th grade has rolled out an implementation of Wit and Wisdom, which is our new literacy program. And the budget will continue to support the needed materials and professional development into next year for that program. This year's focus was a district literacy task force for the middle school, grades 6 through 8. And their recommendation was to move forward with a new literacy program also, and it was to continue with Wit and Wisdom, so students will have the consistency as they transition from elementary school into the middle school with that program. So again, the next steps will be to focus on what that implementation plan will look like for the middle school at that level. And that will begin this summer and with some professional development. And again, all of this work aligns with the goals and the sub-goals of the strategic plan. For community resources and engagement, this falls within the 3rd goal of the strategic plan. The district continues to be committed to maintaining an open working relationship with our business partners in the community. And that means to have meaningful engagement for our students and community members, for students to go out into the community as well as business partners to come in. And this budget will continue to support this work and provide expanded opportunities for that to happen in those real-world experiences of both going out and the businesses coming in. And again, this will happen across the district in all of our schools. So as far as the Educational Assistance of Laconia contract, I'd like to take a minute to thank both sides of the negotiating team. There was a lot of hard work that was done to get us to this point tonight. And later tonight, we'll talk more about that tentative agreement for the contract for the 24 to 2027. I do feel really good about the overall contract and the changes that happened with the wage schedule that's established for the next 3 years of this contract. There have been a tremendous amount of vacancies in the district for paraprofessionals the last few years. At some points, we've had up to 30 vacancies across the district that we've been unable to fill. So there was an intentional focus on year 1 of this contract to really give these positions a bump in the salary that's needed to really help resolve this issue. So moving forward, we hope to have that really help. Year 2 and year 3 have a 6% overall increase in the steps. And I would like to introduce Kelly Kuchar, the president of the EAL, and she is a paraeducator at Woodland Heights. And she's with us here tonight to review some of the highlights of the new collective bargaining agreement.
Hi, thank you for having me. They've started this journey in the fall, and it has been a long process filled with ups and downs, and I'm so thankful for my team, and I appreciate the time and effort put forth by the SAU's negotiating team, and I'm so grateful for our continued partnership with the SAU. Staffing our schools, as Amy was saying, in these last 4 years has been particularly challenging. With ever-growing increase of students that require services and less staff to accommodate the need, it's been clear that we need significant changes to our outdated CBA. The Education Assistants of Laconia spent time researching what changes would be necessary to make our contract competitive with surrounding schools, as well as what is needed to hire and retain highly qualified employees. Some of our highlights of the new contract include increases in salaries, longevity increase from 3 cents to 4 cents, and updating the educational stipends, which had needed updating, had not been updated in a long time. We added a salary track for registered behavior technicians. You'll probably hear more about RBTs moving forward. And we also added a wage differential for speech assistants to be competitive with surrounding schools. We updated language. We added a probationary period before benefits start. And lastly, we added a single health insurance for 30-year veteran retirees. I'm confident that this new contract will accomplish our goals of attracting new staff as well as retention within the district. We had our member meeting last week to ratify the contract, and it was very well received. In fact, it was approved unanimously. I'm extremely proud of the employees in our bargaining unit who work so hard to support both students and staff. This is another stepping stone to help breathe new life back into our schools in our continued effort to fully staff all the vacant para positions. The positive effects of this new CBA will be felt by all students and staff across the district. Thank you.
Okay, so some of the highlights for the elementary level. We have the last few years with ESSER funding, we have had an interventionist at each of our elementary buildings, and the administration is requesting to continue that support in each of the buildings. The interventionists will continue to work with students in small groups to provide additional supplemental support in addition to what they are receiving in the classrooms from their regular ed teachers. There have also been part-time positions at the elementary level the last few years that have been supported by ESSER that we would like to continue to address with the increased caseloads for both occupational therapy as well as our students that English is a second language. So we have an ESOL part-time teacher as well. This additional support will go where the need is across all 3 elementary schools. The first year of the launch and implementation of our new literacy program, Wit and Wisdom, has gone very well, and this budget will continue to support the needed materials and resources and ongoing professional development that will continue into next year to implement this successfully across the 3 buildings.
We also are looking to change some exploratory program. I mentioned the STEM position at Laconia Middle School, which will be some hands-on experiences for our kids in the world of manufacturing and engineering. And we're excited about that. We also are looking at adding a world cultures with current programming that we already have. The assistant superintendent mentioned literacy, and we're seeing some amazing results at the elementary schools. Within a half a year, we've seen that over 90% of our kids have made growth in reading at the elementary school in the first semester. So that's only in one semester. So that same programming, Wit and Wisdom, is something we're looking to bring forth to the middle school, and that requires professional development. It requires resources, and it requires resources for teachers and kids. And then lastly, for middle school, we are looking to add a life skills professional. We have a bubble of life skills kids in our program coming in next year, and having a person permanently working with those kids in that program is something that will benefit our kids in life skills. In the high school, and I'll just mention that Lisa Hines, our principal at Laconia High School, is sitting in the audience. Thanks for being here, Lisa. We are looking to continue to offer engaging and quality programming for kids. That includes some humanities courses that can be taught for dual enrollment, where kids can receive high school and college credit. There's a sociology course that they're looking at having for college credit, as well as potentially micro and macroeconomics. We have some programming at freshman and sophomore years for literacy, namely a freshman seminar program, as well as a citizenship class that's giving our kids some good skills in the world of economics and citizenship. We are looking to add a school management system, which is an e-pass system where kids will go to an iPad in each classroom and sign in. So there's a fairly minor cost for that. And our hallway monitor will be the one that will be supervising that. That will allow us to better manage the school. We also want to make sure that we are having kids prepare for college and career. So when you think about options for kids, we are expanding the number of industry-recognized credential opportunities where kids can get certified for things like health and OSHA. We have added a woodworking position to the budget, a position that was cut a few years ago, actually like 11 years ago. Some of you might remember that. We brought that back, and because we have an influx of kids who are taking that class, we're looking at expanding programming and offering woodworking too next year. We have an F1 class, and that's a class that's a combination of a STEM, math, and an engineering class where kids design an F1 race car. And I think that later on this month, they'll be actually racing those race cars. So it's a really great way that we can get kids some hands-on experiences, which are really doing well. And then we also have up there Sachem Support Block, which is a built-in enrichment and intervention block for our kids to have some extra opportunities. And we can do a lot of things like bring in people from the colleges to offer information to our kids. It also gives us a chance if we need to test kids. We can do a lot of things to intervene with kids who need help. And then lastly on this slide, bridge programming. You know, for a lot of years we offered kids who were struggling to receive and earn credits at the high school night programming. And we have a robust night school, but the reality is our high school kids, that doesn't work for our kids. So we've been able to offer bridge programming where the kids are getting those credit recovery opportunities in the middle of the day. Next, for the Hewitt, really excited about a sports management class that we're looking to add. That will be a program that will be funded by our most significant grant that comes to fund the Hewitt, which is called the Perkins Grant, which is roughly about $200,000 a year to support programming. And this comes out of a needs inventory that came from our schools and our kids. There's a huge demand of our kids to learn more about sports management, recreational management, and so we're looking to add that to our program. I think it's important that you know that we've done significant technology upgrades, a lot of them through grants. And so in the last few years, we've received about $200,000 in additional grant program that we've applied for. And those grants have done everything from add an auto tech piece of equipment to about $60,000 worth of computers in our media center program. So our creative use of grant funding has allowed us to enhance our Hewitt programming with minimal impact on the budget. Lastly, because our plumbing and heating program, which was on the verge of really, we had to seriously look at that about 10 years ago because of a declining enrollment issue, we have actually expanded enrollment in the Hewitt. I give all the credit to the teacher of that program, and because of that, we are offering a 4-section of plumbing and heating next year. And because of the tuition revenue that will be used for that, we expect that there'll be no impact on the budget. So really impressed with the Hewitt because of the increase in enrollment over time and goes along with the increase in opportunities. Tax cap compliance.
I get the fun slides.
Yes, you do.
So that is just an example of how the tax cap affected us in our budget process. You will see that in the revenue side, we plan to use our adequacy aid, building aid, free and reduced lunch funds that we get. We plan to use our reserve funds this year. We've always had a plan to establish those reserve funds for a time when we need them. And later on today, you'll hear about why we want to use those up. And the last one under there, we have a 5% increase, which was what was allowed to us by the finance department. And that's, you'll see that we have 4 million and change of federal projects. Our nutrition program is $1 million. And then total appropriation for all of our funds would be 48,471,420. And here's just a description of where our funds go to for the most part. The blue and red is salary and benefits, as most companies and establishments and cities, most of your money goes there. The rest of the pie separates out the other places that we use our funds. Later on in this slide, you'll see those functions in a more specific way. So some of our increases, salary, contractually, our salaries will be increasing. Health and dental both went up. Health went up 8.9% this year, which really wasn't as bad as some districts went up over 20% this year. So ours isn't that bad. Our dental insurance increased only because we increased our participation in dental insurance. The rate didn't really change that much. Our special education and contracted services is increasing, and Amy Hines will talk more about that later. But kids move in, kids move out, they need special services, and we have to contract those out. Special projects, we have set aside monies to do some of the facilities projects that the schools have requested next year, so we've budgeted for a few of those that they have asked for. We had them, you know, say which is the most important and down, so we're trying to take care of all the most important things that they requested. And tuition for handicapped and non-public. Again, our special ed community grows and needs additional things. Our decreases, our extended year program, we're using grant funds for this year, so there's a decrease there. Our CIP, architectural and engineering, if you recall last year, we set aside $249,000 to the playground project. So that is not there, so there's a decrease there. Books and periodicals, we're offsetting with grant funds, and new equipment, technology, computers also coming out of grant funds. So we have decreases in the general fund for those. So now, these slides, they're probably hard for you guys to see, but it kind of shows the percentages that are changing from last year, or from this year to next year in these salary lines here. So an overall increase of 5.29% for all salaries throughout the district. Benefits, also another 5.74 over health and dental, life insurance, workers' comp, et cetera. Contracted services, this is the 300s, which are associated with students. So all of the 300 contracted services are related to students. And those. Then we have purchase property services, which are similar, but those are more for facilities. That would be utilities and maintenance, any kind of improvements, things like that, all come under the purchase property services. And those are down just a bit. Okay, and then you'll see these are kind of transportation. The 500s would be transportation, insurance, advertising, postage, tuition. You'll see that the tuition, handicap, non-public, highlighted in blue, is one of the increases that we mentioned earlier. and supplies, books, software all come under here. Down just a little bit because of the grant offsets. Equipment, the new equipment that is mostly computers and technology, and that is also being offset by grant funds. And then this is just a hodgepodge of a few other things, graduation, our debt service, dues and fees, and things like that. Okay, special education.
So as Diane mentioned, there's a couple areas in the budget that do show the last few years some significant changes that have increases. One of those areas is the contracted service providers. So contracted service providers, again, are those services that we provide to students. It is speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and specialized teachers for vision and hearing and behavior and autism. Many of these services are critical shortage areas, which means that we, even though we do our best and we try to hire our own employees, many times we need to outsource these and hire them through the agencies. We always do kind of our due diligence to hire them when we can, but that is unfortunately the reality of it. You heard earlier tonight that the last few years we've had a huge shortage in our para-educators. So with the EAL negotiations, we're really hopeful that we can fill those vacancies with our own employees, because the last few years we have been having to work with agencies to fill some of those positions. They didn't even fill all of them, but they are quite a bit more expensive than what we pay our own employees. The total cost for services has gone up significantly the last few years, and it ranges anywhere from a 7 to 10% increase for these related services that are in students' IEPs that we are required to offer those services. The other area that you saw highlighted as a significant increase is the out-of-district tuition cost. So this is unfortunately an area of our budget in special education that has significant changes that we have very little control over. We have current placements through the court, which have both students that are involved with DCYF, which is the Year of Abuse and Neglect, and then with juvenile justice, which is the older students with delinquency charges. Over the course of this past year, we've had 93 students that have been court involved. And some of those have now since been closed, but that is kind of, it goes up and down throughout the year. And again, it is important to remember that if a child is placed due to a court-involved situation, we have very little control over that, and sometimes it has nothing to do with school, but it has things to do with either at home or out in the community. If a student is identified special education, the district is responsible for paying the educational cost of whether that student is at another public school, in a foster home in a neighboring district, or sometimes in a private institution. There is a cap that the district has to pay up to for court-involved students, and the estimated amount for next year is $61,188. So that is for each student, regardless of kind of where they're at, depending on the cost. Right now we have about 25 students that are court-involved that are in placements. One of those, or two of those, are district placements. There are times when the district gets to a point where we can no longer meet a child's needs, but Laconia tries very hard to build programs around students so that we don't have to have students go out for their educational services. In the process of building this budget, we had kind of 3 students that were kind of, things were brewing that were becoming court involved, and they did result in us having to budget for day programming through the court, and then we are responsible for the transportation, which that alone can be $50,000 or $60,000 per student. So again, that's some of those highlighted areas that you can see. This can go up, that we've seen over the last few years, and then it can significantly go down. It really just depends on what's happening out in the community. So this year, there is an increase of $308,000 over the tuition cost from last year. And again, that the increase in the transportation, especially in the high school line, there are some significant increases.
So just a few more slides, just to wrap this up. I know that you have a busy night in front of you. We did think it was important that you knew about two of our grant-funded offices. The first is the Office of Extended Learning. This is an office that's been established in the district for the last 20 years. In the last iteration of the grant, the district received $825,000 a year to support what's called out-of-school learning. So that means, excuse me, summer, after school, and we have a very robust after-school program in the district. There's also some other things that grant supports. It supports a student learning coordinator at the high school that is specifically tasked with giving kids community experiences and extended learning opportunities. And then we also have a couple of grants that are under the umbrella of this office, which include the NHLI grant, which supports half of the funding for that STEM LMS position. And then we just recently were awarded a Gear Up grant, which is a grant that allows us to support a position to support college exploration in the district, as well as potential scholarship money for kids. And that's a 7-year grant that we're really excited about that we've had before. Very quickly, the Office of School Wellness is specifically aimed at wellness for staff and students. And we have received through this office about $6 million in Project Aware grant, which is the most significant grant that comes out of this office. And then the other grants that I've listed total about $10 million in grants. This provides the districts with resources that don't come out of the general fund that allows the district to support significant staffing for support. Social workers, mental health clinicians, school psychologists, those are grant-funded positions that we've been able to support in this district for the last 10 years through various grants, the most significant one being Project Aware. And then just to bring the council back up to what our priorities are, we have, as the chair said at the very beginning of the presentation, strategic goals. And hopefully you heard through our conversation or through our presentation how we're looking to support literacy, how we're supporting teaching and learning, namely through supporting staff in some unique positions. Staff and student wellness largely through the grants, as well as many college and community engagement opportunities for our kids. And so want to make sure, I know again you have a busy night, want to make sure you have time to ask any questions. We have, as the chair said, many people who are responsible for this budget, including you. We really appreciate the diligence and your service to the schools. The council has been a great supporter of our schools in my 5 years as superintendent. And we really appreciate you taking the time to take in a lot of information. We want to make sure if you have any questions that we can take those.
Sure. Council Boga.
Thank you. That was a very informative presentation. I appreciate all the work that y'all have done in presenting this and putting this together. And I realize how hard it is in this day and time to put a budget together that can work. Now, the only question I had was, there's a contract that's being reviewed by the city council later.
Yes.
And does the current budget that you're asking us to approve already incorporate the monies necessary to have that contract be facilitated?
It does. And as the B.A. Clary said, the most significant impact of the contract is in year one. And so it has, and we've added in your, I think the city managers included the fiscal impact of that as well. So yes, thank you very much for making sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Steve, I have a question. From your presentation and during the budget process, there's no staff positions that are being pink slipped?
That is correct.
Okay.
So even though the ESSER positions, we didn't retain all of them, those were all year-to-year positions. And so everybody who wanted to stay on working in the district has been able to do that.
Fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Superintendent, thank you, and thank you to your team for presenting this evening. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. As someone who truly loves visiting our schools, I will tell you that two things. I was on the phone with a parent of a student in the middle school as I was driving over to the meeting tonight. And this student transferred into the middle school. And I want to let you know how effusive this parent was in the praise of our middle school and how this student was welcomed and received and has been educated. It was just so wonderful to hear that someone can come from the outside the community, not know anybody, not know the teachers, be worried about the curriculum. Parents naturally have reservations moving their kids around. But how a few months in, and the parents are just over the moon that the transition has gone as well as it has, and how welcomed this particular student feels. So I just that, you know, I'm not surprised to hear that, having had an opportunity to walk the hallways of the middle school with you over the years. But I wanted to share that with you since it was just came up in a phone conversation moments ago. And second of all, when you talked about the F1 program, and I thought about, I had an opportunity to go and see the program and listen to the teachers involved in it, and also have the students pull me aside and tell me about the projects. From their marketing, to their research and development, to the bits of engineering that goes into it, to the idea of how to build a business plan. And then the thrill of competition as well, and I just thought it was just such an exciting project that the schools did, and I could just see the kids when they're telling me about it, the students when they're telling me about their cars, they were truly excited about something, and they weren't just going through the motions. Something had turned a light on in their mind, and it was really wonderful to be part of that experience. So. Once again, you know, just like the city as a whole, sometimes we get known for our challenges instead of our opportunities and successes. And I think it's critically important that this community remembers not just the challenges our schools face, but the achievements that you and your team and the SAU have accomplished over the years, and how the students have benefited from it, and the parents as well. So I just wanted to let you know your work is not unnoticed by many in the community. I wanted to say thank you. I hope you would share that with your whole team.
Yes, thank you very much for saying that. You did a fantastic job of describing the F1 program, much better than I did, Mayor Hosmer. But I appreciate what you said about our staff and amplifying the middle school in particular, because we really do have great people working in Laconia School District, so thank you for the recognition
We
of
do,
that.
and hopefully we always remember that our public schools reflect the community that we serve. And I can sometimes present some tremendous challenges, as we know, and I'm glad to see that. It's just nice to see that, and of course my personal experience with my two kids that graduated high school last year. As I tell anybody who ever asks me, the teachers and the staff at Laconia High School never gave up on my kids. Never gave up. And I will forever be grateful to Laconia High School for that fact.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, unless there's any other business, did you have a, no, you're all set? Okay.
It's an echo.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Then this, we're done. Thank you. Thank you, Sue.